Hello, everybody. Welcome to Counselor's Couch 101. My name is Jim Stump. It's been a heck of a first week here in 2023. A couple of themes have come out of it. One of them, as always, is relationships. Gentlemen are talking about having difficulty with relationships and thinking maybe they want to get out of the relationship. And others are talking about how they want to improve their relationships and they're trying to figure out how to do that. The other thing that came up as a theme this week is worry about the future, particularly the financial future of families and the country and the situation at large. Of course, I always want to help folks who want to improve their relationships. Absolutely. If that's what's on your mind for this year, that's your goal, that's wonderful. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what the problems are. I'll bet anyone who wants to fix a relationship can fix a relationship. Talking with the couple, it seems that they say that they love each other really a whole great deal, but the problem is they keep arguing. And I said, I don't think that's love. If you're arguing all the time and you cannot agree to stop the arguing, there's something wrong with that relationship and it needs to be examined. It doesn't sound like love. You say you love each other intensely. Um, it sounds more like obsession, like somebody has to possess the other, and for reasons that are probably not um, on the surface. They're probably things that go way down deep inside. And I think the two people are playing off of each other's obsession, and things are being triggered from the past, and they're trying to solve all that. That isn't love, you know. I told the gentleman when we were talking, I said, look, um, if I love someone and truly love them, let's say the love of my life is here in LA, and she wanted to go to New York in order to pursue a career. If I love her and truly love her, I'd buy the ticket because I'd want her to be happy. If it means leaving me and going off and do something else, so be it. That's the way it is. I care about the person. I'm not trying to beat my partner down and try to make her submissive to my will or agree with whatever foolish thing I'm thinking at the moment. That's not it at all. I said, I said, do you care enough about your wife to let her win the argument? And he stopped and he thought about it. He says, I could tell you otherwise. He said, but the truth of the matter is no. He says, when she triggers me and she starts getting on my case and coming up with all the old business, all that, he says, I can't let her win because if I let her win, she's going to use it as ammunition in the next argument. And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And I'm thinking to myself, I really think you two either need to sit down with a counselor, a couples counselor together, or you need to sort of separate for a while and see if you really want to be together, right? That was one couple. The other couples are telling me, hey, this year we're going to fix our problems. We're going to solve all this stuff that we've has been difficult for us in the past. And I say that's great. All we have to do is identify that stuff and we can figure out ways to get around it. Um, I was reminded of the story of a young preacher, right? He had just recently gotten married and he had a beautiful young wife. He was a young man. And they came across um, a conflict of opinion, a conflict of something very, very serious nature that was, they violently opposed each other in, right? And it seemed like they were never going to come to any sort of a compromise or an understanding or any sort of an agreement on the issue. And the young preacher was fearing that it was going to cause him to end up in divorce with his wife, who he just married recently. And he didn't want to do that, of course, because he didn't believe in divorce. He believed in the vow that he took, and that was one part of it. And the other thing is, he didn't want to divorce his wife. He loved her. He wanted to fix the problem, but it just seemed insurmountable, right? They were never going to get together on this thing. So finally, he said to her, he said, I'll tell you what, let's put this aside for 5 years. In 5 years, we'll come back and we'll look at this and we'll deal with it then. And that's what they did. They set the issue aside and just let it sit over there and let it give it time to see what comes with it. And after 5 years, they did come back to that issue and sit down and discuss it because they made an agreement that they would. And they discovered after 5 years that that issue had just simply blown away. It was no longer important. It didn't mean anything to either one of them. And they didn't have to destroy a relationship over something that didn't have the staying power. It wasn't that significant, right? So that's a beautiful story. I said it to these folks too. I said, sometimes we just set things aside and keep working on our relationship. And as our relationships get better and we grow closer and closer because we're supporting each other and we're getting to know each other, some of these things just no longer become an issue. We don't care about them anymore, right? If it's not earth shaking, if it's not going to destroy the entire planet, why let it wreck your relationship, I think? So, relationships, that was a theme this week. People are for improving them, and some people are really concerned about it's pulling them apart, and they're going to have to go separate ways. That's one. The other one was worry about the future. I was grabbing a quick lunch. My schedule was really, really full, and I was just trying to, get some food real quick at lunchtime. And I happened to have my cell phone on, and this thing came on. You probably all know how something flashes on your phone, some sort of a news item. They want you to look at it, etc., etc. And I kind of like to have hear human voices, when I'm alone. It just makes me feel a little bit more connected to the world as opposed to having silence and feeling like I'm alone. So I just let this thing play, and it turned out it was a kind of an editorial or an advertising promo from Hyundai, the car company, right? I happen to own a Hyundai, so I was kind of interested in what they were going to say, and they were talking about the things they were working on for the future, for the betterment of the planet, right? And the first thing they were talking about was tankers, ships that would be carrying oil and anything else of a liquid product, and container ships from Asia over to the United States and back again. And they were creating these craft. I'm going to get this wrong, folks, so go ahead and check it out, and you can correct me down below or send me a nasty email or whatever you want to do. And if you're a troll, by all means, tell me how stupid I am, and that's fine with me. I don't mind in the least, as long as some people get the message. They're working to create these craft that are perfectly safe, and they're not having any sort of a negative effect on the environment at all. Not only that, they were going to be powered by computers. They did not require a crew to be on board of these ships. That's one thing they're working on. And they're going to move along, and they can also be parked outside of, say, a harbor. Where here in LA, we had dozens of ships parked out in the ocean waiting to get into the harbors the last couple of years because of all the problems we're having with allowing the ships to come in and getting them unloaded and all that. You can park the ship out there and leave it there forever because there's no people on it. They don't need to come to land and get food or do anything at all. The ship can just sit there until you're ready to bring it into the harbor and unload it. And in addition to that, because they were computerized, they could time the arrival of the ship so they wouldn't have to sit out there. It's like when your dock is open and available and you want us there, we plan it so that our boat arrives at that time, right? And container ships the same way. They arrive in such a time that they can be offloaded quickly. That's what Hyundai was working on. It's one of their projects, right? Also clean for the environment. And in addition to that, they were talking about the programs that they're working on for the oceans. One of them is they're going to use the ocean to produce food for human beings. And we've heard this talk about there's not enough, the planet can't make enough food to feed all the people on the planet at this time. But Hyundai was talking to people about developing food sources from the ocean. And we're not talking just about fish, right? You're going to have to go look up the details. I don't want to say things that are wrong, not because I'm going to get sued or kicked off the air, but I don't have the right names. But they're coming up with food sources growing in the oceans themselves that they can harvest and bring up and we can use for the masses of people. Another thing they're working on were these floating, I don't know what to call them. They're like decks. You put them all together and you can create decks, and you can put these things anywhere on any ocean, anywhere on the planet. I can imagine that you can actually eventually start building cities on these things above the water. I imagine a lot of you haven't read, maybe you haven't even heard of Isaac Asimov. In the 1950s, he he wrote a trilogy of science fiction books talking about the planet Earth. They changed the name of the Earth to Trantor, and he was saying one of the things in the three books about the planet Earth was the entire Earth was covered, even the oceans, everything was covered. They put pylons on all over the ocean. They kept building up and up and up, and they figured that the least amount of buildings on the entire planet, from the top of the whatever's been built down to the bottom, the least distance was at least 1 mile. And a lot of other parts of the world had been covered up to even higher than that, right? And I suspect he was far-seeing in the sense that he knew that we could build something over the oceans. Are there going to be problems? Are there going to be tsunamis and waves and things like that? Of course. And Hyundai says, yes, we expect there are going to be problems, and we'll have to figure it out as we go. But we're working on that, right? Putting platforms together so we can, who knows, put boats out there and create little cities out there, or perhaps build something on top of the platforms. That's just different things they're working on, and to have more room for people to live and get some space and some clean air. Now, go back and check the Hyundai advertisement, the little editorial thing they put out, because their information is much more precise than what I just told you. But that's the general idea. And the theme for me was, there is hope for the future. Yes, we have problems. Do I think that all that stuff that Hyundai is trying to work on could be turned into a negative political stuff? I'm sure it could. But at least they're trying. There are people on this planet searching for and working on solutions. They're not sitting back and saying, woe is me, the planet's going to die. They were also talking about getting power from solar and from wind by using things out on the ocean. Can you imagine putting panels out on one of these platforms in the middle of the ocean? It's not bothering anybody. It's not in a shipping lane. It's collecting solar power from the sun and transporting it to places on the earth that need the power, and it's out of the way of everybody. What a brilliant idea, right? And wind power, they can put wind turbines out there as well to collect energy from the wind when the wind is blowing. So my point is, there is a possibility for human beings to actually make solutions to the world's problems, and we can start thinking about overcoming things as opposed to worrying about them and fighting with each other over limited resources, right? There are ways we can move into the future if we are willing to step out of our old ways of thinking and start looking for solutions that are actually going to work and benefit everybody. So it gave me a little bit of hope for the future, where a lot of people are saying they're worried about what's going to come next, right? It's a tremendous, humongous project that Hyundai was talking about, and they admitted they could not do it all themselves. They're bringing in dozens of other companies to assist in various aspects of these projects. And that is another benefit, right? Bringing people together, creating jobs all across the globe, and creating connections and relationships with people that can possibly benefit us all going down the line. So I prefer to look at those kind of things. Let's look for the positive things we can do to solve some of the problems we have, and think about positive solutions. And in the meantime, we can be friends with our neighbors and stop fighting with everyone, and try to build better personal relationships in our personal lives with our neighbors and with the people we work with and people in the community and all over. Let's start thinking positively, because there are solutions to the Earth's problems. We solve those, maybe we can get along a little bit better. So, relationships next year? Yeah, absolutely. Let's improve them all. Everybody deserves a good relationship, or many. And I don't mean multiple partners. I mean good relationships across the board. And also, let's have a positive outlook for the future if we can. There are good things happening if you look for them, right? Let's focus on what's positive. Let's think about how we can participate in those positive developments that are coming across. And I was really heartened by watching this Hyundai commercial type thing. Look it up. I don't know if it's out there for anyone to tap into on YouTube or not. I really don't know, but I hope a lot of you go look at it and see what you think about it, and see whether or not it can fit into any plans that you have for your future, and particularly this year, so we can accomplish something of benefit for the planet and each other. Sorry, I got all wound up. I've been dealing with argumentative people this afternoon, and they kind of sometimes they trigger you and they wear you out emotionally, and they got a lot of problems and things are going on and trying to calm them down. So maybe I got a little wound up. I hope it wasn't too much. But yeah, let's make the most out of this year, folks. Happy New Year to you all. God bless you. And I look forward to talking with you next time.